The Red Scare was a mass hysteria produced by fear of communism in America during the 1940s and 1950s. Technically, there was a previous Red Scare in 1919, but I'll be covering the more large-scale and recent one that happened during the terms of Truman, Eisenhower, and Kennedy. In 1940, during the start of World War II, the United States passed the Smith Act, which basically meant any social or political ideology that was meant to disrupt or dismantle the United States government was banned. This law was passed to determine the growing popularity of communism, which had spread throughout America's society. Communism offered a more free style of government, one popular among labor workers and activists, but this was in opposition to a more controlled and traditional government. The Communist Party of the United States of America, or CPUSA, had amassed over 50,000 members by the end of the 40s. During World War II, the CPUSA continued to hold ties with Russian communism to an extent, advocating anti-fascist and peaceful ideologies. They never directly confronted the president, which was Roosevelt at the time, and remained seemingly neutral. But this changed when a direct order from Soviet officials was received after a Poland invasion, and the CPUSA turned against the presidency and solidified its alignment with the Soviet Union. Now it became clear there was a communist presence in the United States. After World War II had ended, the tension and question and loyalty from American politicians had increased, as many former members had been part of the CPUSA. President Truman created the Federal Employees Loyalty Program, a sort of test to determine the Americanness of future federal employees to ensure their loyalty to the states. This test course resulted in hundreds of dismissals and resignations of employees, and helped kick off the start of a countrywide anti-communist investigation. Senator Joseph McCarthy raised awareness of a communist presence in the USA, conducting a massive amount of investigations against fellow Americans, mostly those who held political power, and, in doing so, created a fear of being found communist. Many citizens were terrified of what might happen to them if they were found guilty, unfairly or fairly, and were excruciatingly careful with what they said around people. There were cameras, wiretapes, and American spies everywhere, waiting to call someone out for being associated with the Soviets. McCarthy's plan of action, right or wrong, did result in quite a few communist uncoverings. Many American politicians and workers had actually been involved in the leaking of the atomic bomb development plans to the Soviets, most famously Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Their trial in 1950 was further proof of communists in America, and helped the senator continue his crusade. Tension was increased as politicians, workers, and even actors were blacklisted with the smallest amount of evidence, and people were getting very scared. But World War II was not the end of the Red Scare. The Cold War, a power race and struggle between Russian and American governments, had kicked off during the 50s, and the threats and promises from both sides did not bode well. There were rumors of Russian spies trying to steal information and spread communist ideology in America, but the more pressing and obvious threat was nuclear warfare. Both the United States and Soviet Union have been developing atomic bombs and growing their arsenals, and people were preparing for what seemed to be an unpreventable assault by partaking in bomb drills and making underground shelters. And then the Soviet Union collapsed and everything was fine.
Yippee!